Hello and welcome to Shorts Not Pants Film Festival 2022. I'm here today with Christian Cargill, the director of Heart Valley, which is a lovely short documentary that we are playing in our festival this year. Um, Christian, nice to talk to you today. Thanks for being with us.
Nice to be here.
Um, so I understand that Heart Valley was based on an article that you read in The Guardian. So what was it about the article that made you want to track down Wilf Davis and make a film about him?
He's a hard man to track down.
Oh yeah.
That's for sure. I think we were coming out of our second lockdown over here in the UK, and this article popped up, and it's a tiny little piece in the Guardian, but it went viral that weekend, and everyone I know saw it. I saw it, and I think it just really resonated at a time where everyone wanted a bit of escapism. People hadn't been abroad. People had been trapped in their homes, be it their mansions or their small flats on an estate in a city or wherever. So I think for me, it really resonated because it made me yearn for the outdoors and a yearn for a change of space and a change of environment and a change of just perspective on things. I think his was so refreshing that he felt so unaffected by COVID and his life was carrying on as usual, and he had so much joy in his life. So I spent the next couple of weeks just having him on my mind every day, and after a period of time I had this kind of penny drop moment where I realized it was a story which I thought would really translate well in a visualization of what he describes of this world. And I partly wanted to see if the magic was as real as it felt in the article, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think it is. In fact, bringing it to life visually, it's a beautiful film. It makes us want to, like you said, be outdoors and enjoy that. I guess I didn't think of it initially as a COVID story. We'd seen a lot of films over the past few years about COVID and about feeling, trapped indoors and alone. And I guess here's a man who's alone but not alone, and that's really wonderful. I watched it again this morning just to prepare, and I found myself tearing up and everything. And I wondered do you think there's something else in it that makes us react so strongly to it?
Yeah, well, I just on that, I think I definitely don't see it as a COVID story. I think the timing was interesting of that happening and this story coming out, but I actually feel his story is timeless. It's not trapped in this kind of nostalgia or trapped in a yearning for something else within the COVID environment. I feel like it's a film that will resonate hopefully in the past and in the future, and it feels almost timeless. I mean, especially the lack of technology in his life and things like that, it definitely feels like a film that could come out at any point or be seen, and it will still translate with an audience. Sorry, what was the question, James?
Oh, just what I think you've answered it. Like, why do we connect so strongly with his story?
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
I feel it is a timeless story, and it's something that it's all humans strive for, pure happiness, and in the context of a pandemic or not, that resonates. So yeah, I think it's a universal story that applies to any culture and any human being with a bit of heart, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned he was very difficult to track down. Can you describe that, or how did you eventually get in touch with him?
So he doesn't have email. He watches very little television, and he's only got a kind of brick phone that he uses in farming emergencies, which I didn't even know he had until one of our last trips where he had to return a ram to a neighbor. So after a couple of weeks thinking about him, I contacted the journalist who had written the piece, and it turns out that she lived in his village. She'd moved there a few months before, and she had been approached by a few filmmakers with similar ideas after reading the article. And I went for a coffee with her and explained my perspective on the story and what I thought how I would want to tell it, and then didn't hear anything for a few weeks. And then I got a text from Kieran just saying, okay, he's up for meeting with you. If you really want to make this, come to Wales, meet him. And that was it. So Kieran, who's also a producer on the film, she was almost the kind of the wrangler between us before we actually met. So she was definitely the point of contact. So without her, I would have had to just turn up in his village unannounced, which I don't think he would have appreciated.
I guess I wonder, do you know how she ended up meeting him? Like, it seems like he's someone that doesn't, he doesn't sort of socialize, it sounds like, with a lot of people. So
Well, he's a lovely social person when you meet him, but he keeps himself to himself, but only within the context of doing his work. You know, everyone in the local village knows him. Everyone in the community around there, everyone knows him. He's known as the man on the mountain, which is quite sweet. And she met him on one of her walks. She does a long walk each day, and she kept bumping into him. They got friendly and became kind of friends over that period. And the more she spoke to him, the philosophy of his approach and perspective really started coming out. And it's quite surprising as a hardworking guy, but having this really interesting take on the world. And he's so viscerally emotional about the beauty in the world. It's pretty grounding spending time with him. And I think that happened with her. And then she wrote the piece, not expecting much to come of it. And then it resonated on such a big scale. And then the same's happened with the film.
how did he react to having a film crew around? I mean, it sounds like he's got very set routines. Did that interfere with his life very much? Did he express any frustration?
Yeah. It was always on my mind that, well, budget wise, because I self-funded the film, so I had to keep the budget pretty tiny, and I was juggling it around a full-time job during filming. So kept the crew very small to me, and a second producer were the only people ever with him, and often I'd film on my own. I self-shot it. So we created a really intimate environment that made him feel comfortable, I think, just being, just me and him often. Out in the fields. I think with a bigger crew, I don't think it would have translated as well on screen. I think that would have made him feel uncomfortable. But I think his detachment from pop culture and being really kind of watching a lot of television and things like that, he doesn't have that. So there was an immediate trust that I'm doing a job, he does his job, and he trusts that I'm going to try and do my job to the best of the ability, rather than being suspicious, like, oh, you're going to make me look silly on camera, or you're going to be judgmental, or you're going to twist my story. He doesn't have that perspective of that's what a lot of television does to people, or has done traditionally in the past. So he was completely open from day one, and he openly sheds a tear with me talking about things of a certain sentiment. And the first day we arrived, there was not much small talk. Within about 5 minutes, he said, right, I'm changing the field for the sheep. See in a bit. And I hadn't even got my kit ready, so I scrambled together and just started filming. And that's the scene early on in the film of the sheep changing field. And he then told me a few trips after that he'd actually been saving that to show us because he thought it'd be interesting for the film, but no kind of mentioned that at the time. So
yeah, I guess when you recorded the dialogue, I guess you had to you were just sitting with him in the house or something.
Exactly. It was actually the back of his white van.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to, you can hear the wind in the audio, in the narration a little bit and stuff. I wanted it to be, so we did it at the top of the hill, just out the back of his van, and just audio only. That's great.
How long did you spend with him overall? How long did the film take to do?
We did five trips in total, doing about 2 or 3 days each time. Wow. The film takes place over autumn, which is his favorite time of year. So I wanted it to be a day in the life of his favorite period of time. So it was 5 trips over the autumn period, seeing the leaves change and squeezing in time when I can, and then sleeping in a van just in his field. It was all very DIY.
Did he share his meals with you? Did he make you any fish and beans?
Yes, I definitely tried the salmon paste sandwiches. I didn't quite dare the breakfast, but and that was an amazing moment in the interview which isn't in the film. I said, well, what would you say to people that says you're not experiencing enough in life in regards to his food? And he says, well, I have my favorite meal every single day. What more could this person want? And he's right. And then he said, what's your favorite meal? And I said, I think it's a carbonara. And he said, what's that? Oh. He's never had one. So on the last trip, I cooked him up, me and him, a carbonara in the barn that you see.
Wow.
We made it together, which is quite a nice moment.
That didn't make it into the final cut.
Definitely not. No. Me and him wolfing down a creamy pasta.
I want to turn to talk a little bit about the music, which is by Erland Cooper. How did you get involved with the composer of the film?
Well, I feel completely blessed to have got him for the film. I don't think it would have been what I envisaged without him. I'd seen Erland perform. He was the first gig I went to outside of lockdown after the first lockdown here in the UK. So it was someone I'd picked up on a few years before. I'd wanted to see him for ages. And then he did this one-off show at the Barbican here in London, which was out of this world, especially seeing live music. I go to gigs almost every week. Seeing live music for the first time in well over a year, it was a really magical moment. And then a few months later, I started the film and starting to think music being such an important thing with the themes and the what you see on camera. And it was who would be my dream composer for this? And it was instantly him. And I thought, why not? You just got to try on a punt. So I dropped his lovely manager an email explaining the film, explaining the budget. And I had a Zoom with him. We chatted for an hour, and he loved Wilf. He loved the story. He respected the approach that I was going about the story, and he said, we'll make it work. And thank goodness he did.
Yeah,
And
it's wonderful. It's used so sparingly, though. I mean, at first anyway. I don't think anything, I don't recall hearing any music until almost halfway into the film.
Yeah, it's the
Was
same
that
with
your
audio.
choice or his choice? Or
that was my choice for Erland's music. He's from the Orkney Islands in Scotland, and he loves using field recordings and soundscapes from an environment. And when we chatted, I said the same thing. I want, in an unpretentious way, I wanted his environment to be part of the score, to really just feel all the sensory things that you can translate in a film without actually being there yourself. And sound is so important for that. So you're just letting the land breathe and the sheep do their thing and make their noises, and the little click of his post. And it doesn't need music, but then it kind of starts subtly feeding in, and the environment switches to music, and it hopefully kind of they snake into each other.
Yeah, it works very well. I wasn't familiar with his music before, and I've just discovered that he's done something like he's buried the master tape of one of his compositions in somewhere in Scotland, and there's like sort of a treasure hunt going on, like for people to find it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's for his next album, I think. And he didn't think anyone would discover it for quite some time. And I think just a couple of weeks ago found it, actually.
Oh,
took
that's
him
fantastic.
completely by surprise. I'm pretty sure he left his phone number in it, and he got a call from them completely by surprise saying, well, we found it. And I think he was very taken aback and just thrilled that someone had solved the mystery so soon.
I love the idea. I thought it was very, very clever and a nice way to connect with people. I guess I want to ask how the film's success has affected Wilf. Has he seen the completed film, or has he responded to any of the press and success that you've had with it?
Yeah, I took the film to see the film in January. I set up a little screen in his barn, and we watched it together to check he was happy with everything included. And after that, it got into Tribeca, and then it went out on BBC Two Wales, and it's had a lot of festival success since then. I mean, I'm feeling very humbled, let alone he's feeling very humbled. I went to see him a few weeks ago, and I was saying your story is really starting to resonate on quite a large scale internationally now. Who'd have thought, who'd have dreamed? And I told him that Robert De Niro was when the film won at Tribeca, and Robert De Niro was there, and he had a little cry. He almost doesn't want to know. I think he's quietly pleased that it's happening, but he loves that it's not affecting him. But he's very sharp and smart, so he'll be thinking about it, but he's so modest, he doesn't say too much. He just likes to carry on and go about his business.
Yeah, I wonder how his approach to his life and his work has that affected you as a filmmaker? Do you feel like it's rubbed off on you or changed your perspective?
Definitely. For my next project and any doc that I work on, it is just let scenes breathe, let people just do their thing. He's the best example of his pace is so slowed down compared to the busyness and speed of almost everyone I've met or know. So it really has taught me to just let things take their time and don't rush anything, because the most beautiful moments will happen then if you're not pushing it. And his working with him was the personification of that.
Yeah. I guess that brings us toward the end. I want to ask you, is there any other, I mean, you mentioned a future project. Is there anything you can mention right now or give us a clue about what you're working on?
I can't mention too much that I've got coming up. I'm in the middle of an edit today for a music video I'm making, where we had 7 live snakes on a couple of days ago with an amazing artist called Asher Gold, which I'm directing and editing. So that's coming out in a couple of weeks.
To change of pace from what you
see the snakes in that, which was pretty amazing. A snake called Basil. So that's coming out in a couple of weeks, and then hopefully there'll be more documentaries coming in the new year.
That's
hopefully.
great. Well, we wish you luck with the future stuff and also with Heart Valley, and we hope that that we'll see some more of your work in the future. Thanks, Christian.
Thanks, James.
All right.